Today's video, I'm going to be talking all about the to-do list and reminders apps that you can use. I've changed around and tried out probably a good majority of the big popular ones, and I've moved around back and forth to the point where I've actually driven my wife completely crazy and she just does her own thing now. But besides that point, to-do list apps, I could not function without a decent to-do list or reminders app. They're the same idea. I'm just going to kind of take today and just go through a couple of the main ones, but just more so to talk about what they can do and how they can help you out. As a band director, tech director, and along with coaching a few sports, I couldn't, as I said, function without a proper to-do list app to help me remember certain things that I need to get done and just go about my day and actually getting through the day. So this video, as I said, I'm just going to dive in and just kind of show you some of the different features and just point out and kind of show what are some things you can do in certain apps that you may not be able to do in others that maybe will just help you get an idea of what you would like in a to-do list app. Now, today's video, I'm just going to focus on Mac OS based apps. However, all these apps and all the different operating systems, mobile devices, all have their own. The ones I'm going to talk about today, specifically the Apple Reminders, the Microsoft To-Do, and Todoist are the main three I'm going to focus on. There are a bunch of them out there. I use a specific app for grocery lists that is shared with my wife. So when she marks something off, it removes it from my side and vice versa. All these apps have that feature built in. So you don't need really any specific app to have those features, as it's pretty common amongst all of them. The other thing that will really determine which app you go with is what ecosystem are you in? Are you just an Apple person? Are you just a Windows person? Or are you somebody like me that jumps back and forth? I have a few Windows devices. I have an Android device or two I use. I have iOS devices, and I routinely jump back and forth between all those. My daily driver is Apple, but when I am on those other systems, it is really helpful and handy to be able to access my to-do list and reminders from those devices. So what's important for me is to have something that works across the board. If you're just in the Apple ecosystem, you might be content and Apple Reminders works perfectly for you. That's where it really comes into finding just what works best for you and sticking with it. Before we jump in though, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below, and right next to it you can also click on that bell button so you can stay up to date with all my latest video tutorials. And also don't hesitate to leave a comment below, as I will respond and read to every single comment left. It helps me in deciding what future videos to make, and I can also help out if you come across some specific issues. So let's jump into some of the to-do list apps that I have played around with. The first one I'm going to open up is the one that comes with every Mac OS device. And there really is something to be said for what's built in, or as they say, baked into the operating system. That makes it really tightly integrated with everything that you see and do. Sometimes that's really nice to have. And honestly, the improvements in the past couple of years to Apple Reminders has been really, really nice. So when you open up Apple Reminders, again, this works on Mac, iOS devices, which includes iPad and iPhone, and also is accessible through the web. If you go to iCloud.com, you can log in and view your stuff through there also. So that does kind of give you a way to be more accessible across all the different platforms. So if you happen to have one device that runs from Windows, you could go to iCloud.com on your Windows, log in, and you would have your reminders. Again, personally, I like it more as an app that I can just open up instead of a site I can go to. So when you get in, honestly, all these apps work pretty much the same way. It's just some of the nitty-gritty little features that are just a little different. So on the left-hand side, again, just like all these different apps, and you don't have to specifically go with one of the apps I cover in this. Play around, find one that works best for your needs. It's going to be different for everybody. The key is just having all the features that you want. And the thing with Apple Reminders, it does the basics and it does them fairly well. There's a couple of quirks with it that just doesn't fit me as well, and I'll show those off along with the pros and cons. But on the left-hand side, you can create all your different lists, and you can have a lot of them. As you'll see when I open Todoist, I have a lot. Todoist is the main app I use. So you can create your shopping list. You can share it with your spouse. So when you mark something off, it will go off of their list and vice versa. I have a quick list, personal, work, and you can, as I said, add as many as you want. If you flag them, an item in your list, it'll show up under flagged. If you've set any reminders by a day, it'll show them under the scheduled. And then on the day that you have scheduled it to remind you, you'll see it under the today. And then you can also get a list that just shows all of your reminders. So if I tap on all, it's going to show you the category and just show you all the lists. And then I can just tap on individual list here and just add the item. So for example, under personal, let's say I want to add a new item. So I'm going to put in meet. If I could type meet for golf tomorrow at 11 a.m. So you'll see here, it turns the text blue and it'll allow me to quickly tap on that and it will automatically set it for tomorrow at 11 a.m. I can even add a location. So it lets me know that I'm going to be meeting this person at location X. Now on iOS, the adding the date and time when you're typing in the item, it still works fairly well. It's just a little different. And I like it to be as quick as what you just saw on the screen. That's something I like about Todoist. On iOS, it's not quite that way. It's still pretty quick and easy, but just not quite exactly the same. So it just, again, depends on how important that is for you. But if you click on the little eye, when you hover over one of these items on the right-hand side, it's going to pop up with all sorts of options. You can add some notes. So if you want to put some different things in there, you can even post links in there. So if you're linking to an email or you want it to remind you of an email or a website link, you can actually post that in the notes. You can have it remind you just on a day at a specific time, at a location. So you could say, when I arrive at Walmart, please remind me to do X, Y, and Z. And it will pop up with a reminder. You can also set it when you leave that location. When you message a person, you can have it remind you. You can set it to repeat. You can give it a priority. So depending if you want those priorities to be something like this is really super important and I want it really high up on my list or not, you can add links down here also and add images. So it's a pretty fully functional to-do list with some really neat things. Probably for 99% of people, Apple Reminders would do everything you need, and it works really well. It's fully integrated with Siri, so you could just say, hey, Shlomo. That's what I'm going to say in place of Siri, so I don't accidentally trigger any Siris. But hey, Shlomo, add milk to my shopping list, and it will put milk on your shopping list. So that's a really nice little feature. So that's Apple Reminders. Again, on iOS devices, it works just about the same. As I said, the date is a little different when you're just typing like meet for golf at 11 a.m. It just parses that information just a little differently, and it's just an extra click to add it in. Still fairly simple and easy. The next app, Microsoft has a to-do list app also called Microsoft To Do. You'll see it looks very, very similar to the Apple Reminders. You got the navigation on the left. I have tried this out in the past. It has all my list on the left-hand side, just like Apple Reminders. On the right-hand side, it has all your actual to-dos. So if I want to add a task, I can say, go golfing tomorrow at 11 a.m. Now what you're going to notice when I put that in, it didn't parse the date. And what I mean by parsing is it didn't pull out the date and set a date and time as a reminder. So if I tap on that again, you'll see under the remind me, it didn't add that date and time into that. For me, that's just no go. For you, that may not be that important. And that's fine. If you don't mind that extra step to go in and add that date, then awesome. But you can add reminders later today, tomorrow, pick a date and time. You can add a due date. Kind of the same idea to me. You can add it to my day. So over here on the left, you can just kind of make a daily list of what you need to achieve that day. You can again have it repeat. You can add steps, so you can do like subtasks. You can add a file, and you can add notes, so you could post links and things like that. Otherwise, it works pretty much exactly the same as Apple Reminders. But for me, that parsing of information is just not quite as good. And I personally think it has a few less features than even Apple Reminders. Like it doesn't allow you to post a little additional stuff on this right-hand side. You can't do location reminders. It's not something I use often, but if I'm in a hurry, sometimes it's like, don't forget when I leave work to go get my medications, and I can do that in Apple Reminders to let me know. So that is Microsoft To Do. You just need a free Microsoft account and off you go and you can use it. So this one also costs no money. Apple Reminders costs no money. There's a ton of them that just don't cost any money. Google has one called Google Tasks. It works in the web and it has a mobile app that you can use. So on iOS and Android, iPad, it does have an app, but they do not actually have an app for macOS devices. There's some other companies that have developed some apps that work with it, but it doesn't work. And again, it reminds me a lot more of Apple Reminders. It has a lot of the same features, but it's baked into Google. So if you're a heavy Google user and you use Gmail all the time, that's something you might really want to consider. So now I'm going to open up my personal preference, which is Todoist. This is my daily driver to-do list app. And again, it works on Windows, works on Mac OS, works on iOS devices and Android. So it's cross-platform truly. And they even have a web interface. So if you happen to use Linux, I'm not sure if they have a Linux version of it, but again, they do have a web interface if you need. Todoist, again, is my personal preference and the one I use all the time. As you can see, I have lots of to-do lists. And I really just like, for me, how this works. So technology list, for example. Let's say I'm going to add, go golfing tomorrow at 11 a.m. And you'll see it turns that date and time blue. And as soon as I hit enter, it's going to say tomorrow at 11 a.m. It's going to remind me. Something else I really like about this that I have not seen in the other ones. Go golfing every day at 11 a.m. So what it's going to do is when I put in that every day, when I tick this one, you're going to see it's going to change to the next day. And then on Monday, when I finish it and I check it off, it's going to change to Tuesday and just keep going. So it's great for repeated reminders. Now, the other apps do have repeated. If you remember, I did show that you can repeat it, but I like that you can just type this in and Todoist will parse out that information and just set it up for you. So again, you've got all the list on the left-hand side. You've got an inbox, today, upcoming, again, just like all the other apps. They do have a free version of this, and you just don't get the theme colors and some other more advanced features. But I believe I actually just paid for it today. I could actually tell you in just a second what the yearly price is of it. Give me just a minute here. It's $36 a year. So for something I use so often and how good it is to me, $36 a year is well worth it. And again, it works on everything. So if I'm going to add another item, I'm going to say take out the trash. Now again, right here, I can choose the schedule, set a date and time, but you can type that in. You can add labels. So I use this a lot when I'm working on repairs or if somebody requests me to order something, I can put in, hey, don't forget to order X, Y, and Z. When I order it, I can say awaiting order. So I know I ordered it, but I'm just waiting for it to come in. If I have something I need to do and I sent somebody an email, but I still have to do it, I can tag it as just waiting for a reply. If there's a repair I'm working on for somebody's laptop or an instrument at school, I can put in process or in progress. You can set up all types of labels that you want. You can set its priority, again, how important to you it is. I don't tend to use that one as often. I use the labels, which to me, I think of them as tags. You can use the reminders, and I believe under reminders, if you click on the little time, you can also do location-based. You can choose the addresses. You can use a map to choose it. And then under notes, you can post links. So if I received an email on something, I can actually go into my email program, copy a link to that, and paste it in here if there's a website. So you can get all the apps to work together. Overall, to-do list apps are just, again, for me, they're one of the most fundamental ways to stay organized. Between my email and starring or pinning emails, my to-do list app, and my notes app, if I didn't have those three things, I would be a mess. Again, I've got to keep a lot of different departments organized between coaching, the technology department, and just my own teaching of band classes. There's a lot to keep track of, and without these three tools, I wouldn't be able to function at all. And if you have trouble with organization, I would strongly look at one of these reminders apps to help you stay organized. So if you're a student in school, you could actually create a section for each of your classes. If you're a teacher, you could create a section for each of your classes or just organize it in any way that you want. But to stay organized with these apps just makes it so much easier. And as I said, there are a ton of apps out there. So play around. Some are free, some cost money. Do you need to be able to share it with somebody else? Then you might think about, well, do they need to subscribe to it? So maybe we want to go with a free one. Do I switch between Apple and Windows and things like that? Do I need something that works across different platforms? Am I a heavy Google user, so you could use Google Tasks? So there's a lot of different things you want to think about, but just find what works best for you and just dig in and use it, because I promise it will save you a ton of time. If you found some apps you really enjoy, don't hesitate to leave them in the comments below. I'm always loving to learn more about the other to-do list apps out there. There are some other apps that I'm going to talk about in my notes, where I talk about notes programs that can kind of do both things. So if you kind of want an all-in-one thing, sometimes those will, there's a bunch of different choices out there for that. So it just, again, comes down to what helps you stay best organized. Otherwise, this is Adam on Tech, signing off.